Happy Wednesday, everyone. It is the middle of the week, and it's time to move on with this second, hopefully, and final video on this series. A couple things I want to go over first. When we announced on Friday, last Friday, that we were no longer doing the cutout templates, I probably didn't make it clear enough, but we are definitely still doing the layout templates. So this is what goes on the board. As far as doing the layout, we definitely are still doing all of our layout templates. This is the Live to Ride, the flag layout template. All of the layout templates we're still absolutely doing. We haven't discontinued anything. The only thing, as far as layout templates, the only thing that we discontinued is the 1/2" MDF cutout templates. So the cutout templates are gone, but all the layout templates are still here. So you can get those. They're on the website, or however you want to order them. We still got them. Anyway, I just wanted to make that clear because I think there was a little confusion. Oh, thank you, babe. Secondly, I got several questions, actually including my wife, that said, why did you cut that out of MDF just to use that as a pattern to cut out of the HDPE? And that's a really good question. Freehanding the HDPE with that spiral upcut bit gets a little tricky. It's not easy to do, especially as the way I went around and trimmed it all up. Vicky's shivering back there behind the camera. You should see her. She's all bundled up like an Eskimo. And it's like, what, 50 degrees today? I don't know. Anyway, the reason I didn't cut it directly out of HDPE is just because that's much, much harder to freehand and hold a line with that. I would much rather, and I did all my trim on this. By the time I get done, literally all I have to do is just cut this now out of HDPE and it's done. And there's no sanding, no nothing. So if I've got to modify something by sanding or whatever, which I didn't, I just did it all with the router, I'd much rather do that on the 1/2" MDF. It's another step, yes, but it's a lot less likely to go wrong, to go bad. So that's the reason. Okay, and then, another reason, or another point that I got questions on. Do you really need to cut one out of HDPE? No. If you want to just stay with the MDF pattern, you can stay with the MDF pattern and it'll work just fine for you. It'll just wear out. If you're cutting multiples, lots and lots of pieces, it's worth it to take the time to do the HDPE. But can you just make multiples on the MDF? Absolutely you could. You don't need to cut another HDPE if you don't want to. So anyway, that's that. So now let's take it to the next step. So this is the one that you saw. This is the Fancy 1020, our new pattern that we have the paper pattern of. I showed this on Friday.
It's on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website now, the paper one. Again, we don't do the actual cutout patterns, just the paper version. But that's what these videos are for. So this is basically, in here, I've got 5/8 length screws, and that's what I want to use on, or normally what I will use on my cutout patterns. However, what we need to do now is we need to attach the MDF, we need to attach that to the HDPE. Now, here's the one thing that you'll want to remember when you're doing this particular sign or something that is not reversible. What I mean by that is when you're doing one like this, it really doesn't matter whether it's backwards, forwards, whatever, it's the same. But it's not the case with the Live to Ride. So you got to remember that when we cut this shape, we're cutting from the back. So it's opposite. So you need to make sure if you want this to come out this way. Now, with that Live to Ride, oh, can I have that Live to Ride layout back, babe? So the Live to Ride layout template or pattern goes on here like this. This would be the front side of the sign, obviously. See how the eagle is pointing to your left, my right. So that's the front side of the sign. So the back of the sign is there. So we need to make sure that this matches up to the back of the sign. This is where we'll drive our screws in. We'll be cutting from this, so then when we cut our piece and we turn it that way, we are looking the same way as that. So in most of the cutout patterns, that won't be an issue. The dog bone, the ribbon, the shield, I'm just trying to go through them in my mind. On most of them, it won't make a difference. On this one, it really does. Even though I've seen many people actually cut this the other way with the eagle going the other way, and you can do that. But when you're making a cutout pattern, just be aware that you're always going to be cutting from the back, and that's why the back of all of these signs that have a shape, they've got those little holes in them. Now, if you had to do it two-sided, you could always putty those holes up, or you could use adhesive and take the screws out and do it that way. But most of these signs are all going to be one-sided. So I just wanted to make that clear as well, because that is kind of a confusing thing sometimes. Sometimes people say, well, when I put my pattern on the board and then I take it, I cut my shape and take it off, it's got holes in it. Well, that's because you're cutting from the back side. So if you're cutting from the back side, just remember that's the back of the sign. So I'm going to actually mark this, that this is the back. Just once you know what the back is, I think you probably ought to identify it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drill and countersink some holes in this, put our screws in this. Here, baby, you want to take this out of the way for me? Thank you. We're going to drill and countersink some holes. So you got to get, depending on what screws you're using, you've got to get the right size. Now I'm going to just do this indeterminate. So I'm just going to drill a series of holes. I think half a dozen holes is enough. You can put these holes wherever you want, but I like to make sure. I think my drill bit's getting dull. So now I'm going to countersink those. Now a lot of times the way Dad does this is on a drill press, so it's all the same, but I just get it close, and that's good enough for me. So now we have that to deal with. A little breakout on the bottom side, really no big deal. So you can just sand that off. You can take it off with your pocket knife. It doesn't really matter. Normally I have a sanding block, but I didn't bring one out. Main thing is that you've got that nice and flush. That will work for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to my HDPE. Now, here's the thing. These are the screws that we normally use for the pattern screws. They're 5/8. And so your material, the HDPE and the MDF are both 1/2 inch. So 5/8 with the countersink is a good length to use when you're cutting out your piece of pine or cedar or redwood or whatever. That's a good length to use. However, when I'm doing this, when I'm attaching this to my HDP, I want a little bit more. So I'm using a 3/4 inch screw just because I don't want to take any chance that that thing is going to bust loose. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make a mark on the bottom side there. Just something that'll help that screw start a little bit easier. And that will hold it in place. I'm not drilling down in there, but maybe 1/8 of an inch just to help that thing really grip and not push off. So I really don't need that many screws. In fact, I don't even think I'll use all 6, because I really am driving that screw down in there pretty good. That's cinching up pretty tight. Now we're using these McFeely screws with the square head on them. But you can use any screws that you like, that you really like the point on. as long as it, it grips that thing good. So now we basically are pretty much ready to go. So let's move these drills out of the way. Actually, I'm going to set up my router, and then I'll be right back and we'll cut this thing. All right, so now we've got our bigger router. This is the 618, but you could use any full-size router. We've been talking a lot lately about the 616. This is a 2 1/4 horse, and I think the 616 is a horse and a quarter. Horse and 3/4 actually. So I'm sure you could use that. That router looks just like this one. Anyway, but you definitely want to use a full-size router on this. This would be, I'm going to take this 1/2-inch cut all in one shot on this HDPE, and I would not want to attempt that with the 611, even if you could fit the guide bushing in there, or the template guide. So this is the 3/8 template guide. This is our 1/4-inch spiral upcut bit, and it is sticking out of there altogether about 1 inch. So again, if you had if you were cutting something thinner, you could take this in 2 cuts, but I did it the other day with all in 1 cut, and it cut just fine. So we're going to put our earring. No, we're not wearing earrings today, not me. That's for later. Anyway, so we'll put our hearing on, our hearing protection, and our mask. Yes, we're going to wear a mask, although I'm not sure it's really necessary because this doesn't really throw up dust, just chips. But that's all right. We'll have the whole ensemble going here. No problem.
No earrings, though.
No earrings, no. So, yeah, we're ready to go, I think. Yes, let me turn the compressor off, make sure it doesn't go on while we're doing this. All right, so now, the next step, you want to always remember to go counterclockwise. This is just a temporary pattern, but I'm just doing that just so you guys might want to do that when you make yourself a pattern. Put on there arrows which direction you want to go. So here we go. Now when you set down in this, you want your router base nice and solid there, so as you drop in away from the pattern, then come into it. Let's see how it looks. So there's our pattern. Now, what we want to do is just make sure that we didn't miss any spots when we went around.
Take off your mask.
Okay. We just want to make sure that we didn't miss any spots when we went around. But it looks like it's pretty clean all the way around there. And that, my folks, is done. All we got to do is put screws in it, countersink it. That's why I take the time to make the MDF pattern, so that by the time I cut the HDPE, oh, I was talking loud, huh? All of a sudden I took my ears off and I'm just talking loud. Anyway, it is nice and smooth all the way around there. If it needs something, you could always dress it up, but I'm happy with that just the way it is. So let's take the screws out of that. And that is our pattern. We will now we'll come back. Let me clean up this mess a little bit. We'll come back and we'll finish this thing up completely. All right, so let's put the screws in here. Now, a couple things I want to go over before I forget. When I was cutting that thing, you notice I had a pretty good grip on it. So definitely cut slow. This stuff will grab on you if you're not careful. And if you feel more comfortable taking it in 2 passes, that's fine. But I like to take it all in 1 pass because I really want that nice smooth edge. But take your time, cut slow, keep a really good grip on it, keep your downward pressure. The closer that you have that thing to your body where you can stay over the top of it and keep downward pressure, the better off you are. The router, I had full speed because I know somebody's going to ask that question. And when you use this with your same template guide, same process to cut your final eventual piece, what's going to happen is it's going to cut it a little bit bigger, but it really doesn't matter. Like the video that we did with Ryan over in California, it really doesn't matter if it is a little bit bigger. As a matter of fact, I used to worry about that, but actually I like it a little bit better. You can see that this is a little bit bigger all the way around, but it really doesn't matter. Just extend those lines all the way to here, and it still works just fine. The layout template works just fine, even if your board is just a 1/4 of an inch bigger all the way around. Really makes no difference. All right, so here's how I go about this. Uh-oh, Mag tried to come in, but the Queen rushed him off. All right, so I'm just going to countersink my holes. Again, remembering this is the back. This is the same as it is over here. So this is the back. And I'm going to use the 5/8 screws because we're just going to go into our soft board, whatever that is going to be, whether it's going to be pine or cedar or whatever you're going to cut your shapes out of, your signs, that is. Just want to make sure that your countersinks are down below the surface of the board, that when you drive your screws, again 5/8 screws, that router base is going to slide across there. And see that, let me see, I don't know, does that show how far that's sticking through there?
Yeah.
And that's going to work just fine. Now, if you've got some better screws, if you don't get these screws, that's fine. Look for screws that have got a nice sharp point on them because you want them to penetrate your eventual board. Now, if you want to, Dad, when he makes layout or cutout templates, he puts a chamfer on the edge. I like it more sharp edge like that, more surface for that template guide to ride on, but that's kind of up to you. But guys, that is about it. I'm going to go ahead and finish up putting these screws in. Or I won't. No, never mind. Stay right there. Anyway, you saw how I did that one. So I like 6 screws in a pattern that big. I like 6 screws just to make sure the thing is nice and tight. Then just tap it on your board. You're probably cutting material. Now, if you're cutting like oak or mahogany or some kind of really hard wood, you may just drive your screws in, just like when I put the MDF on that HDPE. You might want to drive them in the same way, screw them right to the board. If you've got a soft enough, we always use softwoods pretty much. If you've got a soft enough board, just tapping on it with a mallet, with a rubber hammer, should be fine for you. It should go right in. Just make sure before you start cutting, make sure it's nice and solid and there's no gaps in there. You want to pick a board that's doesn't have a lot of cup on it, so all of those screws bite nice and good into the back of your sign. That's all I can think of right now, guys. I think I've given it. I think that's all the notes that I had. So that is it, guys. This one was kind of short and sweet, but the other one was long. So I hope this is helpful. Always go back and refer to this when you're making your cutout templates, or even when you're cutting. What I just did there would be pretty much the same as if you were using your cutout template to cut a shape. But remember to go counterclockwise, draw your arrows on there, make sure you're not, if you go the wrong way, you'll know pretty fast because you won't be able to hold it in against the pattern. It'll want to drift on you. So you'll learn that over a period of time. Anyway, that's it, guys. Hope this helps. Thanks again for everything. Thanks for watching. Hope you subscribe if you haven't yet. There should be a subscribe button somewhere down below or at the end of the video. I've started to imprint a little subscribe button. We're on Instagram every day, Make a Wood Sign. I post on there every day. If you have any questions, as always, email me directly, please not through Facebook. Either a comment on here or email me directly, eric@makeawoodsign.com. If you have a question for Vicky, it's vicky@davesigns@gmail.com. That is about it. We will see you guys on Friday night. We've got a cool demo coming up on Friday night. Friday Night Live, 7 p.m. Arizona time, which is Mountain Time this time of year. Hope you guys can join us. I'll be making an announcement probably on Thursday or Friday morning. But anyway, guys, have a great week, and we'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye.